Hello and welcome along to episode 327 of the Total Saints podcast. It's your home for all things Southampton Football Club. Before we start, as always, a huge thank you to our TSP Patreon community because we couldn't make the show each week without your loyal support. And we've had an unbelievable take-up this week. So many new sign-ups that we're going to split the list between us this week. Now, we did think about forming a barbershop quartet and singing the names, but we didn't have time to rehearse. So we're just going to read out the list, if that's all right. Firstly, thanks to all the following people who have joined our TSP supporter tier. They include Gaz Barrett, Doc Amok, Joe Tucker, Steve Jones, Matt Tilling, Roy Sherry, Vixter201, Siren Saint, Thomas Walton, Jeff Burridge, Joe Lewis Brown, Gareth Mack, Steve Russell, and Josh Burridge.
Still in our TSP supporter tier, we have Nick Townsend, Andrew, Dan, Mark Flinders, David Wilson, Jason Lewis, Eric Heron, Alex Redding, BJ Flack, James Willis, Sean Waltersdorf, Ollie Walker, and Tiru R.
Also in the TSP supporters tier is Andy Helliwell, Sean Goldsworthy, Dan Campbell, Alex, Justin Woodward, Unlucky Saint, Big Bill Bigwood, Ian Hart, Stephen Morrow, and in our Bobby Stokes tier, Darren Slade, Adam Strode, and Ian.
And still in our Bobby Stokes tier, we have Matthew Winchcombe-Young, Brian Foley, Stephen Barton, Stephen Peace, Jeff Roberts, and our James Beattie tier, Mark Eggleton, Kevin Kearslake, Tony, Stuart Austin, and finally in our Francis Benali tier, John Dennis, Red 76 Tax.
Nice one. Thank you. And I'm sure there's even more people that have just signed up whilst we were reading out that list. So we will do your shouts next week. So thank you, everybody. We really do appreciate your support. We've remodeled our Patreon over the summer, and we've got a special offer on for anybody looking to join us this season. I'll explain more about that a little bit later on. Coming up this week on the podcast, life in the Championship under Will Still began with two very late goals to secure a win over Wrexham. There are plenty of talking points from the opening game. We're in Cup action on Tuesday. There's a trip to Northampton Town. We'll preview that one for you. And it's a trip to the bookies' favourites, Ipswich, on Sunday. They didn't get off to the best of starts on Friday night. Lee Anderson from the Talking Town podcast is going to be on later to help update us. My name's Martin Stark. Joining me this week, you've already heard from Steve Grant, who is the owner of Saints Web. Glenda LaCour is writer of the blog League 1-10. And Alfie House is senior Southampton reporter for the Daily Echo. So let's start with, can you believe it, our first home league win of 2025. Lots of other stats as well. It was an incredible feeling. I'd forgotten what it felt like to celebrate a win, that elation full time. Steve, limbs in your end, goals down your end?
Limsy Lohan, I think they call it. Yes, that was good fun. Yeah, I mean that was an extraordinary ending. And I was kind of racking my brain for a short period when we were sort of stood outside the pub in the afternoon afterwards, trying to think when was the last time we scored twice from like the 90th minute onwards to turn a game round like that, and I genuinely can't remember. Like I've been going like 30 years, and I genuinely can't remember a turnaround like that. We've scored twice late on to get a point. I remember against Newcastle in the mid 90s, but not to come from behind to win the game. So yeah, that's one for the statisticians to try and pick through and work back for, because I reckon you're probably talking 80s maybe. But yeah, that was great fun, and it was weird that, I mean, the reaction of people at half time was a little bit, oh, here we go again. Yeah. But I actually thought we played quite well in that first half. We created a lot of chances. Unfortunately, we hit most of them either straight at Daddy Ward or straight at a blocking defender. But the fact that we were creating those chances, we had a fair bit of energy about us at the start. And it was only really the sort of 10 minutes after they scored, give away that dopey penalty. And we kind of lose the run of things a little bit for a while. But once we settled down again, we then had those had the Fraser and Robinson chances just before half time, where, I mean, we should have been on at least on level terms by half time. And then second half, really, apart from a couple of breakaways that we either dealt with really well or kind of got away with a little bit, depending on what your outlook is. We were absolutely all over them. Should have had 2 penalties, and I mean, if you look at the stats, I don't think there's anybody who would argue that we didn't deserve to win that game. It was just obviously a bit of an extraordinary way of that win to come around. But yeah, good start to the season. And yeah, I mean, we're going to look great on that documentary, aren't we? Can't wait for that.
Alfie, there was no big team sheet meltdown necessarily, but I thought the actual lineup and the formation, because we were obviously set up with the 3 centre backs, having been led to think that Will still prefers a back 4. Do you think that was down to sort of the Brighton game, those performances, or maybe more to do with recruitment and not having the right players in yet to play the way he wants to play necessarily?
Yeah, well, I think a mixture of both, obviously, but I do think the Brighton game played a big role in it. And I say that purely because Will Steele and Ryan Manning both mentioned after the game in their sort of post-match interviews that the 30 minutes against Brighton has really been quite big for their confidence and for the team spirit, I guess. And they both referred to it. So no doubt that they were talking about it during the week. And as we said, Will wanted to play a 4-2-3-1. He played it basically all through pre-season. But I think that just shows what he's like as a manager, really. He ultimately will just pick what he thinks is the best for the day. And I think it's the right thing to do in this occasion. You say there was no meltdown with the team news. I think, to be fair, it was handled quite well. There's a couple of little bits in there that I wasn't expecting, I guess. Adam Armstrong to play as a number 9 on his own. I feel like we've sort of learned that lesson a couple of times, and I get it's a new manager. And to be fair, Armour had a couple of chances he probably should have scored. It wasn't actually his positioning that was the biggest problem. He had a couple of chances, didn't take them. But then you're firing balls into the box, crosses. I think there was sort of 10, 12 crosses in the first half, and there's nothing to aim for. You've got Ryan Fraser, Jay Robinson, Adam Armstrong up front. There's barely 12 foot between them. But other than that, I really liked it. I thought it looks good. I think they look natural in this shape. And yeah, I just sort of go back to what Steve was saying. I mean, I can't believe it, really. I think I've not seen a game like that at all. It was absolutely crazy. So I think be huge for them, huge for the spirit. Nice to see Matty Fernandez back. Obviously wasn't fit enough to start. So that Flynn Down, Shea Charles dream with Matty Fernandez is still alive for another week. And I thought Shea Charles looked absolutely superb, to be fair. I know he had the diagonal ball for the goal as well, but just throughout he was really good. Obviously he should have won a penalty with that shot that was blatantly handballed off. So there's a lot I like about the system. I like the back 3. To be fair, Ronnie Edwards is something we should probably talk about, because a lot of people were at half time saying, get him off the pitch, he shouldn't be near the first team. I think it's a slight overreaction, in my opinion. Like, he's clearly a championship player, a competent player. He was a player of the season for Peterborough in the championship a couple of years ago. He was a young player of the season for QPR in the championship last season. That penalty was stupid. There was a couple other fouls, but other than that, I actually thought that he was all right. He was up against Kiefer Moore, who's twice his size, and I thought he dealt with him quite well for the most part. So yeah, maybe that's rocked him a little bit, and obviously eventually he came off. But I like Edwards, Stevens, Kwashi. I like that. I think the fullbacks pick themselves at the moment. Ryan Manning will probably play now, you'd like to think. And I like Shea Charles Flynn Down. So it's just the working out who you put in the front 3 for me that makes sense. And Damien Downs' first game didn't necessarily cover himself in glory, but Jack Stevens bailed him out. You've got Ross Stewart there. Yeah, true. But you've got Ross Stewart there. So I'd like to see maybe you keep Ryan Fraser, Jay Robinson, and a Ross Stewart up front instead. But yeah, for the most part, I think everyone was happy with the team.
We'll get on to the winners in due course, of course, Glenn. But there was no complaints about that Wrexham goal, really. Josh Windass scored the penalty. Keith Moore pushed over by Ronnie Edwards. As Alfie says, he'll learn from that, won't he? You still have to remember that these are quite young players we're dealing with.
Well, the goal started with Sugawara throwing the ball to Flynn Downs' throat and saying, control that. I mean, it was ridiculous. And he'd done it just before that to someone else. He'd given him a throat ball to try and control. And so we lost the ball. And because we'd obviously set up to retain possession from the throw-in, we kind of got done with a pass through. But the goal came, Ronnie Edwards had a bit of a brain fart there, because Kiefer Moore, for all the things he's good at, sticking the ball in the net when it's on the ground isn't one of them. And there is no way that he was going to score from that position. Jack Stevens covering across, you had a goalkeeper there as well. There was no need. And if you put your hand with your fingers outstretched in the middle of his back, and it's actually 2 hands. So there's one hand in the middle of his back and one hand on his arm. It's always going to get seen. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I was taught as a kid that if you are going to push someone, you keep your fingers closed and you just push them like that. You've got a better way of not, a better chance of not being seen. But that was so obvious. I mean, I was at the other end of the pitch, and that's a clear penalty. You just can't argue with that. And he stuck it away well. But yeah, that was I think that was a brain fart caused by the fact that it was his man, and he'd been getting ragdolled a little bit for the sort of 10 minutes previous to that. So he kind of felt like he sort of overcompensated. But just on that point, I don't understand why. I mean, Kiefer Moore, he did his job. He pulled on to Edwards because he recognised that he was the easiest one to knock around. Why do teams always do this? They keep the same right, left, centre, and everyone plays in their channel. Joshua Kwasi could have gone over there. Edwards could have gone to the left. You could have at least made Kiefer Moore think about what he was doing a little bit more. I think we just, and that comes down to organisation. Surely you want your biggest, best header of the ball, because Wrexham didn't really have anything apart from the long ball. I was looking at the stats for the game, as Steve said, and we were the better in every category. They played more long balls than us, and I reckon they played virtually all of those while Moore was on the pitch. And that's another thing we should mention. What a tackle by Shay Charles! Get rid of him. Absolutely brilliant. Proper championship tackle. Have some of that. See you later, mate. You don't like to see players get injured, but when it's in a fair tackle, you sort of think, oh well, it's fair enough. That's just the way it goes. But no, Ronnie will learn from that. I mean, if they stick with the back three, he's going to come under pressure for his place once Harwood-Bellis gets fit. And I'll talk about Joshua Kwasi now. He was a mixed bag. There were some good things, and there was some sloppy stuff out there.
Passing rate was way off, wasn't it?
Oh, bad. And he played Wellington in the Brown stuff quite a few times in that first half, just by being touch not good enough, too slow with the passes. And by the time the ball got to Wellington, the opposition had read where it was going to go, and he really put him in trouble 3 or 4 times. So he needs to sharpen up. He's a young player who's raw. I think
he is bloody quick though, isn't he?
He is quick, and some of his defending, particularly when we went to a back four at the end, and you take away the safety net of having that third defender, and you just have to take responsibility. I know he made the mistake that led to Bazunu's save, which ultimately played a huge part in winning us the game, but he was really attacking the ball well at that stage, and so yeah, more to come from him, but he's certainly not the finished article yet.
Did that first half, Steve, show that there is still a bit of work to be done? It's always weird these first few weeks, isn't it, with players that might come in, players that might go, and Wrexham kind of cope with the balls into the box, and there's a bit of work to be done there.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was clear that that's a system we've probably not worked a huge amount on. That was probably a little bit of a kind of spur of the moment one where Steele was kind of thought, well, actually, the players that I've got available for me at the moment, and maybe even looking at what Wrexham's key strengths are, that's kind of why he went down the route of that system. And it kind of started okay. Like first half, you had Fraser largely out on the right and Robinson on the left, and both of those were dovetailing with the wing backs quite nicely. And then about 10 minutes in, Fraser, I don't know whether this is kind of by instruction or he just kind of went off piste, but he was kind of then floating around in a little bit more of a free role, and it left Sugawara completely isolated out on the right. Edwards was trying to get the ball out to Sugawara quite a lot, but he had no support to kind of either overlap or underlap or play those little passes in behind and try and get in behind them that way. When actually the first 5-10 minutes we've been really successful in getting in those little positions. So that was probably the only thing that was really frustrating. I mean, certainly second half when we obviously threw on all of the attackers, and I mean, I think we ended
£40 million worth of substitutes, wasn't it, according to Phil Parkinson?
Yeah,
We see that afterwards.
I mean, we
imagine that club with big resources in the league.
Yeah, funny that. Yeah, I mean, it's funny how everyone's memory just evaporates.
Yeah.
When suddenly the shoe is on the other foot, isn't it? It's but yeah, the system in that second half. I mean, we essentially sacrificed the central midfield once we took Downs off. But fortunately, Wrexham were absolutely knackered by then. And I think one thing the second half was a great illustration of is this new 8-second rule for the keepers. Because in seasons gone by, Danny Ward would have taken 20, 30 seconds to release the ball every single time. And yet he had the referee counting him down as soon as he had the ball in his hands each time. So he just had to lump it long. There was no Wrexham player anywhere near because they brought everybody back. So the ball basically usually ended up at Kwaji's feet, 10 yards inside our half, and he could play a pass out to Wellington or Manning, and we were on the attack again. So they never got an opportunity to reset, when actually what Ward probably should have done was hoof it into touch on halfway. That would have at least allowed them to get up the pitch 10 yards or so. But yeah, that rule to kind of counter keeper time wasting while the ball's in play actually worked perfectly for us, I think.
I hadn't noticed that. I hadn't clocked that, but now you say it, they did everything else they could, didn't they? They did everything else they could to run the clock down.
Yeah, I mean, Connor Cody, who's been probably the fittest player in the Premier League for the last decade, suddenly drops from Leicester to Wrexham and can't do 60 minutes without going down with cramp. It's funny, that, isn't it? But I mean, I thought we were reasonably good at not kind of getting wound up by the time wasting. Obviously, there was that one time where Ward punted the ball out for a throw-in, so Cody could get treatment for that cramp, and we didn't give them the ball back.
Brilliant. I love that though. That's brilliant.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's up to the referee to stop play if he thinks it's a serious injury. If it's not a serious injury, carry on, lads. Yeah. If you want to put it out, then you shouldn't be expecting to get it straight back.
I think I've always thought with cramp injuries, you just drag them off the pitch and treat them off the pitch. You have to play with 10 men because cramp is, you're not dying.
If you're not fit enough.
Yeah, you can be moved off the pitch. So get off the pitch.
Yeah. Well, get on with the game. I mean, going completely off topic here, but I remember there was a cricket tour when we played in South Africa, and Graham Smith wanted a runner in a one-day international because he had cramp, and Andrew Strauss said to him, "You don't get a runner for being a fat bastard." And yeah, I mean the same applies here. If you got cramp, tough shit. It's get off the pitch. Bring someone who can hack it on.
Let's talk about the good stuff then. Let's get on to the subs and Alfie. Obviously, Ryan Manning coming on. I've seen all the stuff today, all the memes, the dead ball featuring Ryan Manning, and all the mock-up stuff. Brilliant, absolutely superb free kick and a decent assist as well.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I have to be honest. I think for the last sort of 20 minutes before the goal, I was getting a bit worried in the sense that I couldn't see where it was going to come from. I know they ended up having sort of 27 shots on Danny Ward's goal, and the XG's through the roof and all this sort of thing. But it was a real good test against a low block, a deep line defence in the Championship, and I was getting a little bit concerned. And then a moment like that from Ryan Manning, who I don't think has ever scored a free kick before in his career. He says that he used to bang them in the under 23s for QPR. But it's sort of deserted him for the last sort of 10 years, I think, since then. But it's an absolutely unbelievable free kick, James Ward-Prowse levels of technique. And then for him to set the winner up as well, fair play to him. I think he should have been starting. I know that Wellington played well against Brighton, and I think, Glenn, you'd have said that when we spoke in the group chat before the game about what team would we have done. But I would have Ryan Manning in my team every day of the week because he's somebody who puts the ball in and has quality. And I think he actually he completed the most crosses of any player on the pitch, even though he did 20 minutes and stuff like that. So he's clearly got a bit of talent behind him. And a moment like that, absolutely brilliant. So fair play to him.
And
there's not much difference between the two, is there? Wellington and Manning. No. You can pick either one, but if Manning can stick a free kick in like that and take corners, in swinging corners and put them right on the money, which I think he had one in the second half. If he can add the dead ball stuff to his game, that's a difference maker, isn't it? And then he'll be starting games more often than not.
It's going to be a challenge for him to do another one of those. I mean, I think Declan Rice scored those 2 free kicks in that game, and I don't think he's done one since. Yeah. So if he can replicate that.
If you're watching it back, I've watched it so many times, the wall doesn't, I don't think they even jump, do they? It literally just goes.
Made a difference. It was for me. I mean, I said this to the mates who I stood with, that like in terms of distance, it was perfect. In terms of you've got the wall on the edge of the area, kind of in the D, so you've got so much space and so much time to get the ball up and down again that even if you hit it a long way over the top of the wall, there's enough time that it's going to come down, and you've just got to make sure you hit it with enough accuracy and with enough pace. And yeah, I mean, you obviously nailed both of them. Ward wasn't getting anywhere near it.
I feel like I'm going to watch that a number of times this week. Go on, Alfie.
On the Jack Stevens goal.
Yeah,
I think Will still pointed it out. I mean, first and foremost, I mean, absolutely brilliant for Jack Stevens as a bloke. I was so pleased for him, and I've encouraged people to go listen to Adam Blackmore's commentary on the radio, and like it's a real moment of genuine passion, and it's the same in the press box with me and George. Like, although we're sort of there working, when that goes in, we're both on our feet celebrating. Dragon Solak is right behind us; he's losing his mind. It's just scenes I've never seen before. Absolutely brilliant. It was scenes at St Mary's, like the last time we had that was that West Brom game. So I know it's only one game into the season, all that sort of thing, but it brings everybody together. But what it also shows is, they've just equalised 1-1, and the centre half, the captain, is in the box at the back post, waiting for the ball to come in. And that's what we should be doing. We should be attacking these teams and putting them on the back foot, trying to get all 3 points. And so I credit to Will Steele for throwing people forward still in the last few minutes to try and make that happen. I say he's saved Damien Downs probably a little bit of criticism, which is good. We don't want to ruin a young player's confidence, but yeah, so pleased for Jack.
I'll refer you to this tweet at 2:00 yesterday. If we get one, we'll get two. Glenn, you called it.
Yeah, that was.
You
was
pleased when Jack Stevens scored.
Yeah, I was, well, two, yes and no. Mainly yes, of course. So yeah, okay, did that tweet and that came true. That's cool. However, I was having a blinder in the prediction league. 1-1, bloody Jack Stevens ruins it for me. But no, it was no, it's brilliant moment.
What did we make of the celebration? Holding the captain's armband in front of the Northern Wall?
Yeah, that was weird.
What it meant.
Was he cupping his ear a bit as well?
I think it's a little bit of answering criticism.
Fair play,
Because I thought, going back to the fans forum, I thought, given the amount of time that's passed since he got the contract, I thought some of the questions were a little bit disrespectful.
Yeah. The one about rewarding failure, wasn't it? Was it? Did the panel think that the new contract for Jack Stevens is rewarding failure?
I mean, personally, I think, I don't know, Steve agrees with this as well. I think it's okay to question the 3 years, because that did seem a little bit unnecessary, and maybe slightly the timing of it. But to basically say, we should never have renewed it because he's not good enough, without thinking about anything else that he brings to the party, then it's one of those perfect moments that only football seems to throw up things like this, doesn't it?
Well, we had this with Will Smallbone or 2 years ago. Do you remember when Will Smallbone was on the end of a lot of criticism, and then 2 days later at Birmingham he scored the winner or set the winner up, whatever it was. And it's weird how football, like you say, throws these things up every now and then. Yeah,
it's almost as if the people actually in the game know more than the idiots who talk about it from the outside, isn't it? It's almost like that. But no, I mean, sometimes it's right, sometimes it's not. And I mean, Jack has obviously had his moments, even since he signed the contract in the pre-season friendlies, where you kind of think, what's he doing there? But I think he's always going to be that player who has the ricket in him. And I said it last year. He'll have 3 or 4 good games, and then he'll have a game where he looks like a pub player. Yeah. So the thing for Jack, even at his age, he's got to strive for that consistency and to get better. But if he plays like he did yesterday, he was absolutely fine, and he's not going to score the winning goal every week. But obviously that was the icing on the cake, and it's a brilliant moment for him.
Do you reckon he got a little bit lucky with the non-penalty, or do you reckon it's a fair call?
Brilliant.
It looked a bit. Yeah, looked at it on first viewing. It looked a little bit clumsy, but having seen it back, I thought he was okay there.
I thought he got his body in between O'Brien and the ball, and was at that point he just planted his foot and was just stronger.
O'Brien was
given that he gave him a 15-yard start as well.
Yeah, he was looking to go down, and he kind of just collapsed as soon as Stevens got near him. So
I was going to ask you about the ref, Steve. Actually,
if O'Brien goes straight for goal, then he probably scores. So he's kind of shot himself in the foot there, trying to this kind of new thing of players not wanting to score goals. They'd rather earn a penalty for somebody else to take. It's bizarre.
Just quickly then, Steve. I mean, the ref was terrible, and we probably should have had 2 penalties in the second half. But it's weird, isn't it? We all moan about VAR and how hard done by we were by that. But the Championship refs, they're obviously in that league for a reason, and it's going to take some getting used to.
Yeah, I mean, you are going to have the championship referee lottery, aren't you, in terms of decisions, but also the way that they manage within the game. Like first 10, 15 minutes yesterday, that guy didn't want to make a decision at all. He was quite happy for everything to flow. Okay, contact is fine. You can barge someone over. As long as you've kind of made some vague attempt to play the ball, then we'll let it go. And then all of a sudden, there's another half, like the next half an hour, you go and breathe on somebody and it's a foul. But I mean, players like Kiefer Moore are very clever in games like this, where basically they will know when the referee is looking at them, and at all other times they are manhandling somebody. So the whole thing with Moore and Edwards and Stevens at one point in the first half as well was that basically whenever the referee was looking at the ball, Moore would be all over them, pulling them and grabbing them and throwing them all over the place. And then as soon as we went to kind of give a little bit back, that was exactly when the referee had turned around and was looking. So he's very smart in that regard, but it's utterly brain dead from the referee to not realise what's going on. And ultimately that's where he needs a bit of help from his assistant. I mean, you had the lino on the Itchin side who flagged for an offside and then forced us to take it 25 yards back from where the offence was, which was fairly silly. And yeah, there was just, I mean, it's like that guy also was the one that you would have thought would have the perfect view of that handball at the start of the second half. But these guys don't want to get involved, and especially not when they're going to be on Disney Plus in the limelight. It's that is the way of the world. But fortunately, we only have to play Wrexham once more this season, so
it's got to be in their mind.
Yeah.
Another couple of positives, I guess, Alfie. Jay Robinson, you were saying, during pre-season that he absolutely has to start, and justified as well. What a bright spark and what a great performance from him.
Yeah, I thought it took him a little while to get into the game, to be fair, but when he did, he has the talent again. Like Glenn, I think, already pointed out the fact that, or maybe it was Steve, who he works hard and he has the right attitude on the pitch, it seems like. And he went really close to a couple of efforts, didn't he? He hit the post once, another one from a tight angle that was saved as well. He just has that little bit of spark and that little bit of energy. I think I wasn't 100% sure that he would start. I mean, my predicted team was Miles. I think I got 8 out of 11, which is a poor show. I think really you're looking to get 9, 10 or 11 every week. But I did say J Rob would start, and I just felt that it was the right thing to do. We had this conversation last year in pre-season with Tyler Dibbling, and he was the best player in pre-season. He was the only one sort of creating anything, and it took us sort of 3 or 4 games to actually put him into the team and sort of take the leap. And I think, why not? If they're good enough, then they're old enough, and fair play to Will for doing that as well. I was surprised to see no Moses Cisse in the squad at all. I thought he might have actually got a run in, given the fact there's a couple of midfielders out.
We have 5 forwards on the bench, didn't we?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and obviously Matsky made the bench as well. I can't remember if he played against Brighton. He might have done. He might have played in the pre-Brighton game, if that makes sense.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. So yeah, a bit surprised by that, but yeah, Robinson. Look, he's not going to be. This is the thing we need to sort of temper expectations. He's not going to play well every single week. Mm-hmm. The fact he did play 90 minutes for the first time was quite impressive. And I think, Glenn, you were even sort of saying maybe at one point that he might have to come off after sort of 60 or 65. I think everybody thought that would be the case, but they left him on there and he did 90. So fair play to him. But yeah, he's going to have ups and downs. He's not going to play well every week. Just like Tyler, he might tail off at times, but you just got to give him space to grow and space to develop. He signed a 4-year contract in February, so he's not going anywhere. I don't think there's any sort of worries about that. Just give him time to grow into the game, I suppose.
Yeah, the scouts will be watching him. I will ask you all for a player of the week in just a moment. Anything else on the game before we move on? Anything else?
I got something. All the way through last season, we had this issue with the 5 subs rule in the Premier League, and it absolutely killed us because we only had probably 10 players who were remotely good enough to play in that league. We all remember the Aston Villa game. They brought on 3 subs who all scored, and we brought on 3 subs that made us worse, and we got beat 3-0. And it was, and up until the 75th minute, it had been an even game. Just as soon as I saw the team sheet today and I looked at our bench, I thought that's ridiculously strong for the league that we're in. And so at the end of the game, I mean, it happened in the Championship. We got short memories. You forget it happened in the Championship too. Loads of late winners in the Championship, and it sort of brings me on. There weren't many people who left early, not as many as there normally are. I mean, last year we had people leaving on half an hour, didn't we? Stuff. There was a few leaving at 1-0.
15 minutes against Spurs, I think.
Yeah, there's a few leaving at 1-0, few leaving at 1-1. And I just thought in tight games this year, we are going to be the team looking to score the winning goal, especially with a manager who wants to put. We'd already have ridiculous. I mean, if they all played in their correct positions, we were playing sort of 3-1-6 or whatever. There was so many sort of forward players on the pitch. We're going for it. We're putting balls in the box. So there's going to be lots of excitement at the end of games when it's tight. You've got a manager who wants to put the ball in the box and get shots away. With Russell Martin, we'd have probably passed it around for 20 minutes and maybe created one good chance. But with this guy, we're going to put the ball in the box. So there's going to be so much going on at the end of games when, if we keep roughly the same squad and we've got attacking players to bring on. Even the players we didn't use, Brereton and Diaz, Wood, Matsuki, they probably get a hell of a lot of games. It started for a lot of teams in this league. So we've got to make the most of that this season, and it's definitely going to play into our hands.
Do you think there's any credence in the idea that they look fitter already? Do you think that will play into it? Because to be fair, we scored late goals in the Russell Mine, so we can't say that wasn't the case. They did score Millwall, Hull, a couple others, Watford at home. To be fair, but I think a lot of people have been saying in the last 24 hours, okay, we're going for it up until the last minute. We look fit, and we know that they worked harder in pre-season. We know how sort of much they played training games, they ran before games. So do you see that already?
Yeah, I do. There's more intensity as well. That old thing about watching the warm-ups. If you get there early enough, watch that. And I had Wrexham right in front of me, and they were reasonable. And I thought, oh yeah, let's have a look at ours and see if it's got any better than last year. And it was. And the shooting drills were better. And so there's obviously been a step up, and it's that should be normal. But last year we were terrible. We were miles off it, and the team looks fitter, and we look sharper, and we look more focused. And I know there were elements of that first half that, in particular, that weren't brilliant. And you're not going to be able to be brilliant for 90 minutes every game, whatever league you're in. But there was encouraging signs right from the warm up for me. Just seeing the players that we had on the bench and the strength there, and just seeing how seriously we seem to be taking it. There was no one wafting the ball into the stands and laughing. It was all, we're trying to score here, and it just looked generally better.
Let's do some names for Player of the Week, then. We'll put the poll on social media. Steve, do you want to put a couple of names into the hat first?
Obvious one, Ryan Manning. Just back up kind of feels a bit silly that Sky give him man the match off
for 20 minutes.
That, but actually, he's been the key guy in that period for the turnaround. So. And this is something we discussed last year, wasn't he? That he was basically probably the one player who exceeded expectations last season. I think more or less most of the players in the squad were kind of on a level that we expected them to be, or some of them were worse. He was probably the only one that was better than anybody expected. I mean, that's not necessarily a good thing because everybody expected him to be rubbish. But actually, he was fine, and him now coming on and making the difference, first home game of the season, maybe he kicks on and he's going to be a key player for us this season, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Alfie?
It's Ryan Manning, by the way. I've said before, but he's just such a nice bloke as well, such a cracking fellow. I'm so pleased for him that he's doing well. I guess Gavin Bazunu needs a serious shout because...
For the save, yeah.
Yeah, because that moment, as Steve said a minute ago, that's the bit that sets it all up. Without that, none of it happens, and everyone goes home deflated and asking a lot of questions about what we've done for the whole summer, basically. Gavin Bazunu been brilliant in pre-season. He's followed up with that, so I'd add him in. Okay,
Glenn.
Possibly slightly left field. I'll go for the wee man. I'll go for Ryan Fraser.
We haven't really spoken about him, have we? But
he was the key to the sort of tactical flexibility, because when you look at it, his natural position is left wing. He started on the right wing. He then went right wing back. He then went right back. And he did. Steve's already highlighted it. He started the game really well, and then he kind of drifted out of it for about 20 minutes. But when it really mattered in the second half, I thought he did an excellent job at right wing back. It was one of those subs where you see Sugawara come off, and you think, oh, who's going right back then? And then, you see the wee man there, and you just think, okay, well, that's an attacking move if nothing else. And so I think he allowed a lot of, his tactical flexibility and his versatility to play in lots of positions kind of really, really helped things going forward at the end of the game.
Yeah. He might be the right Manning of the season in terms of expectations being on the floor in July the 1st and actually what he delivers on the pitch, hopefully.
The only other one, I might put Shea Charles on the list as well, just for that ball to Manning for the
criminal to not have Jack Stevens on the list, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
That's an absolute crime.
What a problem to have. Last year we were scratching around, weren't we, trying to find players. If there's anybody you think deserves it, we'll put the poll online in just a moment. And we will get on very soon to preview the Ipswich game. Just a reminder, we kicked off August with our biggest week on Patreon since we launched back in 2020. We had over 60 new TSP patrons join us in just 7 days. Now, if you were part of that and you heard your name at the start of the episode, thank you. If you didn't, don't worry, we're going to list them all again now. No, we're not. It's okay. If you haven't jumped in yet, there's still time to grab the special August deal. We just added a brand new entry tier. We're calling it the TSP supporter level. It's only $1.99 a month, and you'll get access to the Prediction League, the Fantasy Football League we do, the WhatsApp group as well, and you get an ad-free version of the podcast every week. This season, there's also merch prizes up for grabs in both the Predictions League and the FPL. So there's something to play for right from the start of the season. And we've also upgraded the higher tiers with exclusive end-of-season TSP merch for bigger bundles. So whatever level you choose, you're getting more for your support. And remember, if you sign up in August, you'll get 25% off your first month or your whole first year on any tier. It's the best time to join us. And of course, it keeps the podcast going every week. So head to patreon.com/Total Saints podcast to sign up. Now, we will get on to the Cup game, but it's back to league action on Sunday when we travel to Ipswich for another early kickoff. I'm pleased to say that joining us from an Ipswich pod is Lee. Lee, how you doing? Do you want to tell us about your pod?
Yeah, hi guys. Thanks for having us on. Yeah, so representing Northampton Town, which is a pod that's been going, I think, similar time as long as your one, sort of around COVID time. I think Martin started the pod and it's sort of grown since then. So there's a couple of good pods within Ipswich, in the Ipswich fan space. Slight difference with Talk and Town is that we have a live feed for the fans to join, which can be quite lively sometimes. But yeah, similar to yourselves, trying to grow. And as I say, it's good to be here.
It does seem like we can't get away from each other in terms of like leagues. Whether we go up, you go up. If we go down, you go down. So I can't remember a time when we were in the same league. But obviously, you kicked off on Friday night, similar to us, really, wasn't it? They were hoping for an upset. I think the TV cameras were there for that reason. A last-minute penalty, wasn't it, securing the point? What did you make of Friday? Because I've got a few friends, Ipswich fans, and they said it was hard work at times.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when random fixtures, I'm not sure, you guys drawing Wrexham and us getting Birmingham away. I'm not sure how that works, but, buy some lottery tickets, I reckon. So I mean, really tough. It was always going to be a tough game. I mean, St Andrews at any time, even when they're a struggling side, I always anticipated a tough game, and it was, and they put us to the sword for a long period of time. We struggled to get any sort of flow to the game, but they didn't really get behind us, and we probably had a couple of good chances. Sort of I think Smodix had a really good chance when the goalkeeper sort of played out from the back to him, but the defender came across and sort of put him off a bit. But yeah, it was just one of those games that was really high intense. The crowd were great. I mean, great to be back in the Championship in some respects, because it's just different atmosphere to some of the Premier League grounds that you go to, I think. But I think we're a little bit behind the ball in terms of our squad at the moment. We pretty much lost the whole midfield from last season. Caduce has come back on loan, but he only signed last week. So we only got two really recognised midfielders in Taylor and Matasiru, who we've just signed for $7 million. I mean, he's going to be a really big player for us, really good at Championship level. Interesting to what you listen to you guys about the bench you've now got a really strong bench to change the game in the Championship. We never really had that. Our bench was really weak on Friday night. But I think if you're a Birmingham fan, they say it weren't a penalty, but by the letter of the law, the guy's gone up, his hands in an unusual position, he's headed it on, and I think however much I dislike VAR, if that goes to VAR, then VAR in the Premier League would give a penalty. So,
it wouldn't have been a penalty with the referee we had on Saturday, I'll tell you.
well, listen, yeah. Well, I mean, the ref was really at the start of the game. He set the standard really low in terms of the fouls that he was given. It was all just nudges and and players were going over and everyone was getting the foul. And Birmingham had a goal disallowed where Greaves was running back and the ball had bounced and he's going to head it. But their centre forward, who's pretty good, the Japanese advert, don't ask me to pronounce his name, but he looks really useful. And he sort of jumped into the back, both feet off the ground, and nudged Greaves, and he then lobs the ball into the net. And Birmingham sort of say, well, where's the foul? But when if you go to VAR, he's jumped up. So I think the ref got that right. But yeah, lucky with the penalty only on the aspect that the ref managed to see it, because he seemed to be the only one in the ground that did. But lots more to come from us. And I think next Sunday, I would say you're probably catching us at the right time, because Cajuste isn't going to be up to speed to start the game. We've only got one real recognised. Well, we've got two recognised strikers, but one was on loan last season. So we're trying to get Akpon over the line, but that seems to have stalled again. So it's probably a good time to catch us, I would say.
And what are your thoughts on the season as a whole, league? Because obviously, like us, you're one of the favourites to win the league. A lot of people are tipping you to win. People will talk about the parachute payments, and you've managed to hold on to Kieran McKenna, so decent manager. What were you actually thinking about it? Like just actual fans. What's the mood like, and what's the expectations?
Well, the expectations are high, really high. I mean, when you spend the money, you've got the parachute payments as you guys had before. And we're investing, the money, we've sold the lap, we've reinvested that, we're reinvesting that money. The good thing is the money that's coming in for the players, it's all getting put back into the club. So the expectations are high. I mean, for me personally, I would say we've got to be in the hunt for the top two, but there's no given. You can't sit there and say, oh, we're definitely top two. The pundits can do that, but we should be pushing high for automatic promotion. And I've got a feeling that might be a bit tight this year. I think there's you guys, there's us. But, you never know what Leicester are with their parachute payments. But Birmingham look a decent side as well. They're spending a lot of money, similar to Rise of Ipswich when we had our takeover. But we spent most of our money in League One, which I think gave us the momentum into the Championship season. We started hitting the ground running. But I think with the changes, particularly in midfield, I think it's going to take us a little time to settle. But certainly we've got to be anything, top three, top four. That's a disaster, I think.
I mean, to be fair, Glenn, we should know enough about what to expect because we played them enough over the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, but I mean, when you go up and down through in the divisions, squads change pretty markedly, don't they? I mean, Ipswich we got 4 points out of our 12 against them last year, and we should have won the home game as well. Obviously, yeah, it should have been 6. But yeah, so I mean, the clubs obviously are familiar with each other over the last 3 seasons. Ipswich's promotion from the Championship, I couldn't quite work it out. They and I mean this with respect. They got momentum, and they just kept it going. But when I looked at the 11 players on the pitch, I couldn't really understand how they were as good as they were. But fair play, got promoted automatically and made a much better fist of the Premier League than we did. So yeah, I mean, that's probably down to the manager. But it's interesting what you say about. So which players have you lost? I mean, obviously everyone knows about Delap. Is Sam Morsey still there?
No, so he's just left on a free. He's gone to a Kuwait. So he had he had 1 year left on his contract, and I don't think the club wanted to give him an extension, because I think if he had
Quite old, isn't
stayed, he wouldn't have played, and if we did get promoted, he wouldn't have been in the Premier League with us if we did get promoted. You know, so the club have let him go on a free, but that's left the gap in midfield. So we've only got Jack Taylor now, and we've just signed Mitu Siwa, and that was his first game on Friday night. And we've got no one else. We've got Cam Humphreys, who was out on loan in League One last year. So they're our three midfielders. There's no one else. And, you know, we've lost Wes Burns. You know, Wes Burns would have played. You'd have seen Wes Burns play before. He's had a bad injury midway through the Premier League season, so he's not fit. We've got Ogbene that we got for the Premier League. He played on Friday, but he was out from October, and he's played until Friday night, he'd played about half an hour of pre-season. So we're really light.
But Hutchison's still there?
Yeah, but he's sort of down.
I know he got linked with Brentford, didn't he?
Well, yeah, and now I think Forest have come in for him as well. So we've refused bids of 35 million for him. So he's not really trying, but he should have been in the matchday squad this week. But he had an illness. But we've still got Jack Clark, so I think he's the one to watch. Yeah, the illness. Well, he didn't travel.
We've had a few of those.
Yeah, well, he didn't travel. You see, Hutchinson didn't travel on the last pre-season friendly against Auxerre. His head went in the right place, so you make of that.
Oh, we got one of those.
Yeah. So I'm not sure Amari. So Amari is one of those. What, you know, we'd love him to stay. He had a brilliant Euros. He did really well in the Euros, but of course, you know, there's bids in for him, and we're holding out for more money, unlike what we could do with a Delap. But we've got Jack Clark, who we got from Sunderland last season. He's good in the Championships. Smodic is still there. He's been Golden Boot. And Broadhead, we've still got Nathan Broadhead. He's a good player, but he's subject to a 7 million bid from Wrexham. So I think.
I mean, that's been on the table for about 2 months, hasn't it? That deal.
But I don't think
not happened yet.
Yeah, well, I don't think we'll let him go because of the injuries, because of all the injuries that we've got in our forward line. I don't think the club can afford to let him go until there's another replacement in the door. So I think that deal will go through. If you know, as I know, I've got no inside information, but I think that deal will go through at some point once we get the bodies through the door. But that just leaves us that little bit short. I mean, we've replaced the defenders, okay, but pretty much apart from that, the squad's, I say, the same. But again, we just haven't got the numbers. The bench, we had three on the bench that won't probably be at the club come the end of the transfer window. They'll either go out on loan. So we're really short. It
is interesting, though, isn't it, Alfie? Playing them this early in the season, both squads are in that sort of transition period, and when we meet again later in the season, it's going to be two completely different teams. But could be a good time to play them.
Yeah, I think if you'd asked me that a week ago, I'd have said that Ipswich are playing Saints at the right time. But to be honest, the way that Will Still's handling it, and he's just told Samadozi, Tyler Dibbling, and Joe Rebo to sit out and just to wait to see what happens with their futures. I think it's the right way to do it, I think, and we know exactly sort of who's available, who's not. I was surprised when Omari Hutchinson wasn't in the team last week. I'm sure if I was following closely, I wouldn't have been surprised by that. But I thought, clearly that's a big blow, but it's very similar to Tyler Dibbling, the similar age profile, similar position, England youth internationals, and by the sounds of it, very similar value. You're sort of knocking off 35 million offers. Saints are knocking off similar offers for Tyler and looking to get a little bit more as well. So I think it makes for an interesting game for sure. I think it's big for Ipswich that Kieran McKenna's still there. I think a lot of us probably would have suspected maybe go to a Bournemouth if they sacked if they had to replace him, or a Brentford, exactly, if they didn't go for a set piece coach. I'm surprised that he's still there. I think that it plays in Ipswich's hands, gives them a bit of continuity. But I watched the game on Friday night, and I thought you were really ordinary. You mentioned Jack Clark. Obviously, he's done it before in the Championship, but I wasn't that impressed on Friday night, I must admit. And I thought you were very lucky with the goal that was ruled out in the first 5 minutes from Kyogo. I felt that it wasn't a foul personally. But Saints looked ordinary at times during Saturday's match as well. So it's going to be an interesting one. I mean, I'd expect both of them to be up there, like say top 3 or 4 this season. I think it's quite a cool game to have this early on. I'm looking forward to it.
Steve, judging by the ticket prices, this must be the best ground in the league.
I mean, it is absolutely fascinating, isn't it? That you play a Premier League match at Portman Road early February in 2025, and the ticket price is 30 quid, and you drop down the division, and 6 months later the ticket price is £43. So are we getting a 50% better away end? I'm assuming probably not. I'm assuming that concourse is still going to be cramped, and we're not going to be able to get a drink at half time, and I'm going to be bashing my head on some sort of girder above my head at the back of the stand. But yeah,
that's part of the bigger problem, though, isn't it? You know, they're just doing what they're allowed to get away with. That's probably a debate for another day, but it is rubbish.
The EFL has obviously seen that. I mean, I guess the issue is that the Premier League can afford to do the away cap.
Yeah.
The Football League less so, and if you're owner of a Football League club, the TV deals are a pittance compared to what you get in the Premier League, and therefore you've kind of got to maximise your revenue however you can do it.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's got to be a line. 43 quid's an absolute piss take.
Yeah.
And the problem is that you end up then with clubs doing these tit for tat things. So I'm sure that when Ipswich come down in early part of next year, I think when that game is, I'd fully expect us to make it a Category A game, and we're going to charge Ipswich 45 quid or whatever it is. And it helps nobody. All it does is breed resentment, and everyone gets pissed off. And you'll find what you'll get is a load of people who say, "Well, I'm not. If I'm being asked to fork out this much for the ticket, that club's getting no money off of me for food or drink. I'll get stuff on the way, and then just kind of sit on my hands for a couple of hours, and then sort myself out after the game. Nobody really wins in this situation, and other than coming up with some kind of cap or just clubs being more reasonable, I don't really see what can be done. And ultimately, the biggest problem is that, like mugs, we still go and buy the tickets.
Yeah, sold out.
But you've only got to buy one ticket. Yeah, you've only got to buy a £43 ticket for one game. If Ipswich do this to 10 other clubs, Ipswich's away fans are going to have a very expensive season because, like you say, all the tit for tat agreements are going to go in place, and Ipswich are going to have 10 away games where some of their fans will go to all 10, obviously, and they'll be spending £43 a ticket. So ultimately, the people who will suffer the most will be the Ipswich travelling fans.
Maybe we'll check in with you, Lee, later in the season on that one.
Yeah, there's not. Just on that point, there's not one Ipswich fan that's happy with the price that you guys are paying. Just the fans are just astonished the amount that you have to pay. So the club, so all the fans are with you on that. I've not seen a single fan that hasn't disagreed with that, and it is a shame. I've got tickets for Preston in a couple of weeks, and they were 30 quid. Well, just a long way up. It's going to take me probably another 50 quid's worth of ticket. I don't know how you guys get there, but where I am in East Anglia in Lowestoft, it's 2 hours just to get out of East Anglia, and the train links. You probably couldn't get to Preston and back in the day on a train from where I live. But yeah, so that's that. To say that I can get a ticket for 30 quid away, but we're charging fans 43. I think that's pretty harsh. Yeah. And it's not as if, what extra revenue does that really bring in? Really, apart from really pissing the fans off, as you say, Steve. Yeah. That's harsh. It's harsh.
Lee, we'll let you go. I just want to get a score prediction from you. We always do this. We're not going to hold you to it, anything, but what do you reckon?
I can't remember the last time we won our first league game at home. We're not great stars at home.
Oh, my bad.
Your home with us is.
I wouldn't be surprised with a draw, but I've got a feeling we'll be a bit stronger than when we played Friday night. I would think I'd say 2-1 home win. Reverse the fixture from last season. That's what I'll go for.
Nice one. All right, really insightful. Thanks for joining us, Lee, and enjoy the weekend, and we'll catch up next time we play you guys.
Yeah. Cheers, guys. Thanks for having us on.
Cheers.
Cheers, Lee. Let's just run around and do our score predictions. If you're watching the live stream, you can stick your predictions in there. Hats off as well to the predictions league that we're running, 42 of the 125 entrants got the exact correct score at the weekend, which is pretty decent. They're better than us. Steve?
I think having got the win this weekend, suddenly there's less weight on this game. So I don't think there's going to be quite the we've got to get a win, we've got to get that first one chalked up. Ipswich are going to want to bounce back from what was a pretty ordinary performance on Friday, albeit in hostile atmosphere and against a side kind of with a little bit of momentum. But yeah, they weren't great, and they'll want to kind of kick on and get the season up and running properly. But I think we've got an idea of how we're playing now. That's kind of a game and a half sort of back to back where we've got a system and a structure that kind of looks like it suits the players. So I don't think we'll lose. I think we can go up there and we'll get a result. Just don't think we'll probably be able to win it again. So I think we'll go for a 1-1 draw this time.
1-1 draw. Alfie, your thoughts?
All of the above for Steve, but I'll change up a little bit and go for a 2-2 draw, just something different.
Okay, Glenn?
I think that the last 6 minutes yesterday has totally changed the mood around things. As Steve said, it's kind of taken the pressure off this game a bit. And whilst, because if we'd lost to Wrexham, we'd have been going into this thinking, oh my God, we're going to lose our first 2 games. Yeah. It's going to be 0 points. We're going to be bottom of the league again.
And just around the corner.
It's just going to look miserable. But that 6 minutes has kind of changed everything, I think. And it will have not just with the supporters, but it will have changed everything with the players as well. And they'll be free to go out and attack this game. I didn't see the Ipswich game. I saw the highlights of it. From what I saw there, they were pretty fortunate to get a result. Interesting what Lee had to say about their squad. Not, and I guess that's where they went through the divisions, because they went League One, Championship, Premier League. They hadn't had the years of collecting players like we had. The reason we were so bad last year is because we had a big squad of Championship players, and we've still got that. Hence what we said about the bench earlier on. So no, I'm quite confident we can go there and win this. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win again, same as last year.
Nice. Congratulations to Darren Collins for winning our T-shirt giveaway on X this week. We're going to be giving away TSP merch for every Saints win this season, which could cost us a few quid. Well, hopefully it will anyway. Make sure you keep an eye on our socials ahead of Sunday. A couple of other bits before we finish. There is a cup game. Northampton in the first round of the EFL Cup on Tuesday night, 7:45 kickoff. Alfie, have you got to go to this one? Going to be there?
Well, I don't have to. I'm looking forward to it. But I'll be there. I'm excited for it.
My first question: anyone fussed about this game? It's kind of like
I think it's a footnote in a much bigger picture. Obviously, let's not forget the last time we had a Carabao Cup first round game, got absolutely smashed 3-1 by Gillingham, and it could have been worse. Let's be honest. So I think the difference this time is Will Steele's not going to make 11 changes. I think he wants to win this game. I think he wants to build a bit of continuity. So I think he will keep a good few of the players that are fit enough to go again. I think they'll start again. Taylor Harwood-Bellis should be able to play a part in the game. Charlie Taylor should be able to play a part in the game, whether that's from the start or as a sub. So that'd be nice to welcome a couple of players back who were obviously, Charlie was a captain during pre-season, and we know how good Taylor is. He'll offer competition to Ronnie Edwards, but he'll take Ronnie Edwards' place, I'm pretty sure, as soon as he's fit. It's not the be all and end all. I don't think anybody cares how far we go in the Carabao Cup this year. I don't think it matters in the slightest. But you want to build that winning feeling, make winning a habit, and this is an opportunity to do so at a League One team. Colin Calderwood is their director of football, interestingly, and Kevin Nolan is their manager at the Cobblers. So a couple of names that we'll be familiar with.
I mean, Alfie makes a fine point there, Glenn. It's about just getting another win, isn't it? Another game, and just there's some plenty to work on from the weekend and things to take into Tuesday night for those that are starting again.
Yeah, I guess so. But I still would be surprised if we don't see quite a few changes. It's just the way football works these days. It's
McCarthy in goal.
I think McCarthy will play in goal. I think you'll probably see people like Nathan Wood play. Moses Sissay might play. Matsuki will probably play. You know, I can see I could see them maybe playing someone like Ross Stewart, and but then he might be. I mean, in my opinion, he should be earmarked to play the next league game, because I mean, personally, I think he should be the central striker, and that would give Damien Downs a bit of time to get up to speed. Ross Stewart would inevitably need to come out of the side after about 4 or 5 weeks, just to protect him a little bit, by which time Downs will have got up to speed a little bit. So maybe it's a game to give Ross Stewart some minutes from the start, to get him ready for that Ipswich game. But no, I'm quite confident we'll have enough to beat them. We got drawn against them in both cups in 2009, if anyone remembers that.
Did we win both games, Steve?
We won both games.
Right.
We won both of them.
I tweeted about this at the time. There's a stat to do with that. I'll see if I can find it. I think it's a better stat, but please carry on.
I'll give you a couple of minutes to find that. Steve, whatever we put out on Tuesday night really should be enough to get that done, do you think?
It should be, yeah, but you kind of still need the right attitude. It's very easy to get.
I think we definitely have that this year, right? I think maybe in previous years.
Well, I mean, we'll wait and see on Tuesday night, won't we? It's one of those where players that know their reserves, maybe you struggle to motivate yourself a little bit more. I don't know, but there is one other name connection, by the way, in this game, and that's Sam Hoskins, Saints Academy graduate who actually had his testimonial for Northampton this summer. That's how old all of us are. So he's been there 10 years now and is still playing, and I think is still their top scorer, which is fairly impressive going. But yeah, I think it's one of those games where you get some minutes in the legs of some players that are lacking it a little bit, but you want to see players sticking their hand up and saying, "I deserve to be involved on Sunday," because we've got big games coming up, and you're going to start having these midweek rounds of league games relatively soon, and you're going to have to be chopping and changing a little bit to keep people fresh. And if the manager sees you kind of tossing it off in a Carabao Cup game, then you ain't going to get considered for these later league games. And especially, I mean, you got the Pompey game, a month away.
Yeah.
That's
also proved
that's a game they should all want to play in.
He's also proved at the weekend that actually, if you are on the bench, you've still got a role to play. And maybe that starting at 11 isn't perhaps as set in stone. Let's cross to Alfie for stat of the week.
Sorry, I apologise. It's actually really, really boring. But they've only played Northampton Town 4 times since 1965. They drew them in both the League Cup and FA Cup in 2004 and 2009. So there you go. That's the stat. They've played 4 times, both times in the same season, both cups. So we'll get them in the third round, hopefully.
I've got another one.
Cheers.
So
word.
the 2-0 Carling Cup game 2009 is Ricky Lambert's debut,
and he scored.
And he scored after about 15 minutes. So there you go.
Yeah,
brilliant.
And in the FA Cup game, Papa Wago scored. Remember him? God,
yes.
20 miles offside. Never seen anything like it.
Right. Anything else before we finish? Are you expecting any transfer movement this week, Alfie, or is it all going to be?
Well, I'm not expecting anything necessarily, but I mean, we haven't got long, have we? I mean, we've got 3 weeks, is it now exactly? So I mean, things are going to have to happen. I'm not in the know on anything specifically at the moment. This Armenian fella keeps popping up. Spetsan or something, and people really like him. I mean, I'm not on the inside of this deal or no deal. I don't know, but the club keep telling me that they don't think a bid has gone in. They're not sure where it's coming from. That could be hot air. I don't know. They could be just trying to smoke screen. I don't know, but I've not heard anything about that. But it keeps coming up, so it's a bit weird.
Yeah, I wonder what the situation would be on work permits and whether we could even trade with these people. Because he's at a Russian club. I don't know what the situation is in terms of sanctions and whatnot.
Well, apparently he's a good player, so hopefully there is no problem and he comes and everyone's happy. I mean, the other thing is obviously Tyler Diblin will surely reach a conclusion at some point. I mean, I can't help but feel that he will definitely leave now. I just feel like you can't really come back. I mean, Will still has opened the door and he said that if he's still here, he will play and he'll be important. But I just feel that he's clearly the one that they've earmarked to try and sell for some money. So I think hopefully it happens, I guess, as sad as it would be to see him go. The only problem is, I mean, Everton are now signing Jack Grealish. So do they need another Jack Grealish, basically? He's a very similar player. So that's a bit of a stick in the mud, I suppose. And then obviously Samandozi and Joe Rebo, I guess we'll see where they end up soon as well. So yeah, I'd like to sign some players, but I don't know of anything. Doesn't mean it's not happening, but I don't know.
Just on the Diblin thing, would you have taken that money, Glenn? Because I saw what they were offering, and you go, do you know what? It's not bad.
How much was it?
Was it 40
plus 5?
45.
40 plus 5. It's getting pretty close, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah.
I think they probably.
Yeah, I think we want 5 million more. I think, which
they probably earmarked 50 million, and I mean, how much 5 million? How much difference 5 million makes in the grand scheme of things?
Bit of interest.
I don't know. He's never going to be worth. Bearing in mind, he's got 2 years left of his contract. He's never going to sign
worth more. Yeah,
he's never going to be worth more in purely financial terms than what he is now. Even if he plays in the Championship this season for us and scores 30 goals, he's not going to be. We're only going to be looking at 15 million this time next year. Yeah. So yeah, I think we do need to sell him probably purely from a financial point of view. And I mean, we're probably playing brinkmanship a little bit, trying to squeeze an extra 5 million out of someone. But
and we've done it really well for the last couple of years. But I mean, eventually it's going to come back and maybe bite you a little bit. And is this the one where actually they just sign the Tyler Dibbling, who's 10 years older in Jack Grealish, and they move on from the deal entirely? So I don't know. Should they have taken it?
I mean, I kind of assumed when the Grealish link was put out in the press, that was Everton basically just putting it out there to try and scare us into coming back and saying, actually we'll take that original offer. Yeah. When actually, I think Everton will probably get more desperate and think, well, actually, he's probably going to be a saleable asset, so we can justify doing the deal. We'll at least offer 3 million more, maybe get up to 43 plus 5, and then maybe that's a position where we say, okay, fine.
Yeah. Apparently, Spurs have become interested in Grealish as well.
Well, Maddison's obviously done his ACL, hasn't he? So he's out for pretty much the season.
Yeah. So all the puzzle pieces fit together eventually.
I don't know. I guess we just have to wait and see if they do. If they commit the cardinal sin and sell both of them. If they sell Tyler and Matty, I guess we'll have to see.
It's going to happen.
I hope not. I really hope not. I mean, I'm not clued up, but I just feel that surely they don't need to do both. Surely they don't need to. But it's the way the football goes when you get relegated. So.
Last week we asked you to get in touch with your top 6 predictions. I said I'd read a couple out. Josh Stark, no relation, reckons we'll win the league. Ipswich second, Sheffield United, Coventry, Leicester and Birmingham. You'll see Coventry come up quite a bit in these. Gaz Barrett thought Ipswich and Saints for top 2. Birmingham, Coventry, Leicester and Middlesbrough. And Chris got in touch to say Ipswich, Sheffield United as well. Be interesting to see.
Start for them yesterday.
If they
does he know who their manager is?
If they stick with the manager, I mean, it might be Sheffield United with the new manager by Christmas. I don't know. Coventry.
Steve, I enjoyed you calling out the Opta analyst. By the way, I mean I don't know who is the Opta analyst, but where the hell did they get Sheffield United top of their championship from?
And Sheffield Wednesday 13th, by the way.
Yeah, which is even worse of a shout, really.
I'd missed that. You need to share that.
I mean, no, that did come from Opta, as in the stats people. Yeah. It's like, I mean, surely when you look at your data, you kind of think, well, that's an anomaly. Let's kind of try and rework this computer and see what the hell's gone on there.
Did you see the sorry, I don't know why. Like, it's fine. I'm over it. But did you see the BBC Radio Sheffield bit they did? They had a fan on who was ringing up asking Ruben Sellers to resign. And he was deadly serious after one game, and obviously he was getting pelters from the presenter. And while we're on the topic of former Saints managers, we might as well talk about Russell Jones. Well, Russell Martin. I was going to do Nathan Jones first. Obviously, they won their first game 1-0 Charlton, didn't they? But there's obviously another video of him having a good time on the touchline.
94th minute winner, wasn't it?
Was it? Fair play to him. And yeah, Russell Martin. I mean, someone else can talk about that.
Well, my mate is a Rangers fan, and he just messaged me today. Meanwhile, we've got your donkey of a manager bringing all his skills to Scotland with a facepalm emoji.
Well, they complain about. They're still in Europe and they're unbeaten.
Well, he said it's hard to take when I think of all the managers we could have had, but yeah.
Maybe a turnaround. There's loads of time.
You never know. You can follow the Total Saints podcast on all the usual social media platforms. It's at Total Saints Pod. If you like to buy some t-shirts like we're wearing, if you look all right in yellow, you can get the one that Glenn's got on. Different t-shirts this week, which is good. We didn't plan this. The shop is on the website, so just head to shop.totalsaints.co.uk. As I mentioned earlier, you'll also find us on Patreon. That's where you can support the podcast with the monthly contributions. You just head to patreon.com/Total Saints Podcast. Each of those tiers comes with some different perks, including some shout outs for patrons in our Francis Benali and our Mick Shannon tier. So thank you to Dave Melton, Andy Hollis, Anthony Thompson, Gavin Ford, James Harron, Nikki Nicholson, Peter Montalbano, Southampton NY, Drew Dyer, James Kibbe, and Red 76 Tax. They're all in our Francis Benali tier. And also thanks to Nick Reed, Dave Ernsberger, Nick Hingston, Phil Cook, Jonathan Cooper, Colt Baker, Anthony Thompson, Matt Hall, Mike Etheridge, Phil Horstrup, Mark Littlewood, James Bobin, John Bevan, Frank Thorpe, and Jono, who are in our Mick Shannon tier. Thank you, as always, to Paul Castle Associates and to Steamtown Brewery for sponsoring TSP this season. Thank you to Steve, to Glenn, and to Alfie. Of course, thank you for watching and listening, and we'll see you again next time.